Okay, I hope I'm on. Did giants walk among us? You can simply Google that statement and find where giants were enough evidence to believe that giants did walk this earth. Now, I'm not talking about small giants. I'm talking about giants that probably were 100 feet tall. And Enoch records giants that could have been 300 feet tall in the book of Enoch. Giant axes were found in Baghdad, a museum in Iraq. And you can simply Google that and find that, or you can go to Baghdad, and if you can get back as a free person, you're a lucky person, you're a lucky man or woman, whatever the case may be. But there's a lot of stories circulated. There is giants recorded even in the New Testament. And there's hundreds, maybe thousands of pictures online of giant skeletons where they were found dug up over in that area around Baghdad and around Europe. And if the Bible is true, and of course it is, then we would have found thousands, of these giants. There is more evidence that these giants are real than there is that evolution is real. The only thing is that the media doesn't want you or anyone else to have evidence that the Bible is real and evolution is not. You're not going to see in the mainstream media advertising anything about a giant more than 9 feet tall, because they don't want you to know there was any such thing as a giant more than 9 feet tall. And some of these were, like I said, some of these were 100 feet tall, according to what the Bible says. And some of the ones you'll find online here, like maybe this picture that I'm going to put on, looks to be 30, maybe 40 feet tall. And it's very interesting, very interesting. If you go in the Bible, let me see if I can find this in the book of Genesis here. Just put Enoch walked with God. Well, Bible Hub. Okay. So let's take you to Genesis chapter 5. So let's go over and just read a little bit of that. Enoch walked faithful with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. Genesis 5:24. And I'm not 100% sure everything just talks about Enoch here, because I'm kind of exploring as I go, and some of you have better access to that. Okay. And this is talking about the genealogy of looks like it goes down to Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who was the sons of Noah. And of course verse 24 talks about Enoch. And Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him. Okay, now, but if you go up and Google giants in the book of Enoch, okay, now that is okay, and it'll bring up to you Genesis 6 and 4. It says there were giants in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, fallen angels, came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, or as a lot of people call them, the Nephilim, which were of old men of renown. Now, let's go over and see. Let's go over and see exactly what the KJV says about this. Okay, Genesis 6 and 4, Bible Hub. Genesis 6 and 4. Of course, it's talking about the Nephilim, of course, here. And so, okay, the NIV says the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them, there were no heroes they were the heroes of old, men of renown. King James says a little bit different. There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Now, you know, with angels which were created, okay, they don't have that magical little thing in the top of their head that says, okay, you've done enough growing. And since they mate with women, and even if that thing were only half as big, and not stop men's growth when they reached a certain height, the height of that man could have been 60 foot tall. Could have been. Kept on growing. Okay, so that's scientifically explaining where the giants came from of old. But now, I would kind of like to see more evidence as far as myself goes as to whether or not there are more about giants in the Bible. Okay, so in this, I have some cross references here. It says, come let us build, Genesis 11:4, a tower which will reach heaven, and let us make to ourselves a name, otherwise we will be scared abroad to face the earth. This is about the Tower of Babel. Some call it Babel. I call it Babel because I think it's the name, because of the babbling of the languages were confounded there. Numbers 13:33. There also we saw the Nephilim, or the sons of Anak, part of the Nephilim, so they say. And I'm not totally sure that they were, because the sons of Anak, they were like 9 feet tall, like Goliath. And very well could have been. Very well could have been. Now this one they were going in, and this is after the flood. I don't think there were actually any giants after the flood. I think that pretty much wiped all the giants out. So I think this interpretation of this add-in here is not totally correct, because the giants were pretty much taken up in the flood. Now so that tells me that the most of the giant skeletons that we're going to find, you're going to find at the bottoms of the ocean. You're going to find them at the bottom of the ocean. Of course, you're going to find some here that were died and buried in different places before the flood ever came. But in the bottom of the ocean, you're probably, you know, down there where there is no light, you're going to find some really, really neatly preserved skeletons, and probably going to be in the deepest part of the ocean because of the shaking of the earth and, you know, the flowing down of the bodies. You're probably going to find billions of people's skeletons down there in the bottom of the ocean, and it's going to be down under the muck. It's going to be concealed down under the muck. But that's where you're going to find skeletons. If they were any that were 300 feet tall, like described in the book of Enoch, then that's where you're going to find those. Okay? And now, did giants walk among us? What kind of evidence do we have as far as this is being real? Enoch, the only man who, one of the only two men who walked into heaven without dying, was an extremely honored. God himself cast such honor upon this man that he did not die. And he's still living. Enoch is 6,000 years old plus and still kicking. Probably as young as he was. As young looking as he was when he walked the face of the earth. You know, God has preserved him. And his word is trustworthy. Recorded in the Bible as an honored man before God. His book alone should be worth taking up and reading. And holding it to our heart as a principle and a way of life. You know, and not being held over that of Christ, of course. And Numbers 13:33, and there we saw the giants. Of course, this is about the sons of Anak again. Deuteronomy 2:20, Deuteronomy 3:11, and these are all passages, of course, about things that happened after the flood. Now, this one may be before. And the Lord said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man." Yeah, their mind was on evil continually. And the Tower of Babel, of course, was after the flood. So I'm thinking, you know, and there is big and little people everywhere you go. I'm thinking all the people in the Bible recorded, such as Goliath and his family, were just that. They were just big people. But if you really want to see giants 30 feet tall and higher, then you go back into the book of Genesis before the flood and according to the book of Enoch. All right, God bless. Thank you for joining. We'll see you next time. Another great message right here, Crossing the Middle Ministry.